The Haunting Melody. It was a moonless night when I stumbled upon the old abandoned mansion deep in the woods. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding as I entered the decaying structure. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and the walls seemed to weep with dampness. In the heart of the mansion, I discovered an ancient grand piano, its keys covered in a layer of dust. The moment my fingers touched the keys, an otherworldly melody filled the room. The tune was hauntingly beautiful, and I couldn't resist playing along. As the music flowed through me, I felt a presence in the room, unseen but undeniably there. It was as if the very walls of the mansion were listening, and the spirits of the past were awakened by the music. I played on, lost in the enchanting melody. But as the minutes turned to hours, the melody took a darker turn. The once beautiful notes became twisted and macabre, and the room grew colder. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to stop playing, but my fingers wouldn't obey. Suddenly, a shadowy figure materialized at the piano bench beside me. It was a woman, her eyes empty and hollow, her skin as pale as death. She reached out a bony hand and continued to play the piano, with a supernatural skill that surpassed my own. I tried to flee, but an invisible force held me in place. The music grew louder and more frenzied, and I watched in horror as the walls of the mansion seemed to close in on me. The room became a whirlwind of sound and darkness, and I could feel myself being consumed by the malevolent melody. With one final, discordant chord, everything went silent. I was alone in the decaying mansion once more, the grand piano now just a relic of the past. My fingers were stiff and aching, and I knew I had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death. As I stumbled out of the mansion, I couldn't help but wonder who the ghostly pianist had been and what had driven her to create such a cursed melody. One thing was certain, I would never forget the haunting tune that had nearly claimed my soul. The Doll's Revenge. As a child, I always had an eerie fascination with dolls. My room was filled with porcelain beauties, their glassy eyes seeming to follow me wherever I went. But there was one doll that stood out from the rest, an antique porcelain doll named Charlotte. She had intricate details, from her lace dress to her delicate porcelain hands. One evening, my parents went out, leaving me home alone. I was in my room, reading a book when I heard a soft, almost imperceptible whisper. I turned, thinking it was my imagination, but there, on my dresser, Charlotte's head had turned slightly. Her eyes seemed to meet mine, and a chill ran down my spine. I rushed out of my room, trying to convince myself it was just a trick of the light. But when I returned, Charlotte's head was turned even further. Panic set in as I picked her up and examined her. How was this possible? Dolls don't move on their own, right? That night, I decided to lock Charlotte in a drawer, hoping to put an end to the bizarre occurrences. I went to bed, but sleep eluded me as I kept thinking about the doll. The whispers grew louder, like a chorus of ghostly voices. I couldn't take it anymore and rushed to the drawer. As I opened it, the sight that greeted me froze my blood. Charlotte wasn't inside. I heard a voice behind me, soft and chilling. "You shouldn't have locked me away." I spun around to find the doll sitting on my bed, her glassy eyes filled with malice. I screamed and stumbled back, but Charlotte's porcelain hands wrapped around my throat, squeezing tighter with each passing second. I gasped for breath, clawing at the doll in vain. In those horrifying moments, I realized that Charlotte was alive, and she was exacting her revenge for being locked away for so long. As my vision blurred and darkness closed in, I heard her voice one last time, a haunting whisper that echoed in the depths of my mind. Now, we will be together forever. The Mirror's Secret. Ever since I moved into my new apartment, there was something unsettling about the ornate, antique mirror in the bedroom. It wasn't the reflection that bothered me. It was what I saw in the mirror when I turned away. One night, as I brushed my teeth, I caught a glimpse of movements behind me in the mirror. I spun around, but there was nothing there. My heart pounded, but I dismissed it as a trick of the light. However, the feeling of being watched persisted. As days turned into weeks, the mirror became a source of dread. I saw glimpses of shadowy figures, lurking just beyond the reflection's edge. I tried to ignore it, but the unease grew until I could no longer sleep in that room. One evening, unable to resist any longer, I decided to confront the mirror's secrets. I stood before it, staring deep into the glass. The room behind me seemed to darken, and the figures in the mirror grew clearer. They were not shadowy, but rather, they were pale, gaunt figures with hollow eyes and twisted expressions. I reached out to touch the mirror, and to my shock, my hand passed through the glass. Panic surged as I realized I was no longer in my bedroom, but in a dark, otherworldly realm. The figures surrounded me, their whispers a chilling cacophony. One figure stepped forward, its skeletal hand extended toward me. It spoke, its voice a raspy whisper, "You've seen us now, and you can never leave." I screamed and tried to pull away, but their icy grip tightened, pulling me further into their nightmarish world. I was trapped, a prisoner of the mirror's secrets. Back in my apartment, the mirror remained unchanged, a silent sentinel guarding its dark dimension. My friends and family wondered what had happened to me, but I was lost to them forever, trapped in a twisted reflection of reality. The mirror had revealed its terrible secret, and now it held me captive of a world of eternal darkness, where the pale figures whispered their unholy truths, and torment me for all eternity.